Good morning. It's good to be with you on this Tuesday morning as we continue in our time together in our daily reflections. I want to pick up where we stopped yesterday. Well, I want to re-pick up, if you will. I want to continue a little bit of a conversation about communion. We talked yesterday about what it meant to historically to think about eating and drinking unworthily. I just want to kind of circle back today and talk a little more about communion and the way kind of churches view communion and the way it plays and and throughout the life of the church. And so just some big picture communion stuff with some specific things about how it's viewed from the Wesleyan tradition as United Methodist that we observe and that other Wesleyan groups will kind of agree as well. So let's read again 1 Corinthians 11:17 through 34. Now, in the following instructions, I do not commend you, because when you come together, it is not for the better, but for the worse. For to begin with, when you come together as the church, I hear that there are divisions among you, and to some extent, I believe it. Indeed, there have to be factions among you, for only so will it become clear who among you are genuine. When you come together, it is not really to eat the Lord's Supper. For when the time comes to eat, each of you goes ahead with your own supper, and one goes hungry, and another becomes drunk. What? Do you not have homes to eat and drink in? Or do you show contempt for the church of God and humiliate those who have nothing? What should I say to you? Should I commend you? In this matter, I do not commend you. For I received from the Lord what I also handed to you, that the Lord Jesus, on the night when he betrayed, took a loaf of bread. When he had given thanks, broke it, and said, "This is my body that is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way, he took the cup after the supper, saying, "This cup is the new covenant of my blood. Do this as often as you drink of it in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes. Whoever therefore eats the bread or drinks the cup of the Lord in an unworthy manner will be answerable to the body, to the blood of the Lord. Examine for yourselves, and only then eat of the bread and drink of the cup. For all who eat and drink without discerning the body eat and drink judgment upon themselves. For this reason, many of you are weak and ill, and some have died. But if we judged ourselves, we would not be judged. But when we are judged by the Lord, we are disciplined, so that we may not be condemned along with the world. So, my brothers and sisters, when you come together to eat, wait for one another. If you're hungry, eat at home. So when you come together, it will not be for your condemnation. About the other things, I will give instructions when I come. So we see here Paul talking about, we talked about yesterday, which is the notion of eating and drinking unworthily and what that means in the specific context of Paul's world, where communion wasn't, we had communion Sunday in church here at First UMC Starkville, and it was the liturgy that we prayed together, and it was the bread that was made, and we dipped into the chalice, and we drank, and we had a chance to reflect upon what God has done for us and what God is doing for us now. So, it was a part of the service. Many of us that take communion regularly have the same type of experience where communion is part of the service. In the early church, it wasn't so. It was a literal meal that they ate together. So for Paul here, he's talking about that. That's once again the context of unworthily. But let's talk about what communion means. I'll speak specifically within my tradition as United Methodist, because you're going to find you're going to have as many different opinions on communion as you do Christians. Every denomination has its own specific understanding of communion, and I respect that. I really do. I respect how you discern and feel about communion. It's a big deal. As I tell people at church, it's maybe the most important thing that I do as a pastor is serve communion. So I want to talk specifically about what we believe in the United Methodist Church, but also, I love that he says here, when we eat the bread and drink the wine, we are proclaiming the Lord's death and resurrection until he returns. And I think that's part of the beauty of communion is telling that story, telling the story of what Jesus did, telling the story of what he did for us, and how when we take the bread and drink the wine or the juice, we retell the story and we remember. We Christians are prone to forget. In some way, the Lord's Supper is very much like the Passover meal. that the Jews would eat. Because in the Passover meal, through each part of the meal, they are retelling what God did in the Exodus. The same thing for us as Christians. During each part of the supper, we are retelling what Jesus Christ did for us. Now, in our tradition, the tradition of my church, we call communion a sacrament, meaning a sacrament is an outward sign, something you do outwardly of an inward and spiritual grace. So it's an outward sign that represents that inward grace, that in a sacramental understanding, God is the one that is the primary actor. So in our theology as United Methodists, as important as what we do is, the real point of importance is that God is the primary actor giving us grace. So when we come to the table to receive, God is bestowing upon us. God is giving us grace. God is the one who is acting very, very much in that moment. Whereas, as much as in a sacramental understanding, which our church has, as much as our obedience is important, it is God's gift of grace that is of greater importance. So that's why in the United Methodist Church, the mode you take communion with doesn't really matter as much. Some churches have the small glasses and the wafers. Others have a common loaf and a common cup. That varies from church to church because the correct obedience in our theology isn't as important as the fact that we know that we are receiving grace. And that's what I want you to hear. That in communion and also in baptism, God is the primary actor. God is the one giving grace. And we believe in our tradition that Jesus Christ is really and fully present with us in the meal. We as United Methodists, do not believe that the bread. Now, first off, the Eucharist, that is one of the theological words for communion. It comes from the word mystery. So trying to nail down what's happening in this sacred moment is for a pay grade way above mine. You know, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I can unpack and explain the mystery that is the Eucharist, the mystery that is Holy Communion, the mystery that is the Lord's Supper. God's the one acting. But we believe that in the elements, the bread and the juice, we believe that as we receive those elements, the real presence of Christ is made known within our hearts. That through these elements, the real presence of Christ is made known within our hearts, and that Christ is really and fully present with us at the table. He is. He is really and fully. We believe in that way of the real presence of Christ in that moment, and that He is really and fully made known and made present within our hearts through these elements that are given to us. It's a very sacred thing. It's a very holy thing. It's, as I said, perhaps the most important thing I do as a communion, as a pastor. Is I look forward to it each month. It's a joy. Our first Sunday here, Starkville First, Holly and I served the entire church communion. We thought it would be a great sign of our desire to serve the church is that we served communion together to the church, and it was our joy. And I look forward to it every time I can do it, and every time that I can receive it. So, just as you come to the table, whenever your church observes, whether it's weekly, monthly, once a quarter, once or twice a year, I hope that you can come to the table with an expectant heart, uh, expecting to encounter Jesus there, expecting to know Him better through this, expecting to be transformed by the grace that we can receive. They're expecting to to feel his real presence. Um, some of the holiest moments of my life, perhaps one of the holiest moments of my life was years ago. Years ago, I was having a little bit of a crisis. It was a moment of great worry and stress for me when I was really praying through something. And I called a buddy of mine who was a priest, an Episcopal priest in the Madison area at the time. And I texted him. I said, "Hey, is there anywhere in this area that is serving communion right now? I really would like to take communion." He said, "No, but if you'll meet me at my church, I will serve you." So me and him sat together in his church and knee to knee almost. Uh, he gave me communion and then was my pastor. And that is a sacred moment for which I'll forever be thankful. It's a holy moment. And my prayer is that whenever it is that you can receive it, you can feel that real presence of Christ. I guess on the way out the door, real quick, communion trivia. Grape juice that we drink is was created or made by Mr. Welch, who is a Methodist layman who wanted everyone, remember we Methodists love open communion, wanted everybody to be able to come to the table. And so he made a non-alcoholic communion wine so that anyone who wanted to receive communion could receive. So we love us the open table in the United Methodist Churches. Hey, thanks for being with us today. We will continue tomorrow. Tomorrow we're getting into chapter 12 where they start really fussing and fighting. So good times there. So, hey, see you in the morning. Thanks.